Welcome to the ThunderCast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week. So keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. Follow us on Twitter, ThunderCast_pod, across pretty much every social media platform. You can listen to the show anywhere. Of course, you like to listen to your favorite podcast. We are literally everywhere. And if you're watching us already, you know that you can find us on the ThunderCast YouTube channel. While you're there, we sure would appreciate it if you'd hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up on the episode if you like it. Give us some of those all-important hype points to help the episode hit more people's home pages and spread the word of the herd as we see it each and every week. We decided to come together on a quick turnaround on this Monday evening and talk about the weekend that was, because it was an awesome weekend. Marshall football spring game weekend. Of course, baseball was at home, and there were several events that went off all weekend long. Russ and I were around for a lot of those events, and it was pretty cool. We want to talk about it. We want to talk about what we saw at the spring game, like on the field type stuff, and some other cool things that kind of matriculated as the weekend went along. So, Russ, if you want to get into it, let's get into it. How do you see it?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I hear instead of seeing, the song's already grown on me. The change that we did, I saw you bobbing your head a little bit to the beat too. It's this is the new sound. Again, for those of you that might be tuning in or for the first time and don't know what we're talking about, we had to change our song after 4 years, or didn't have to. We decided to because even though we paid for the license, it was still getting flagged on a bunch of stuff. So we said, let's do it. We love the old song, thought it was iconic, but I think this is already hitting its stride with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, man, it was just an awesome weekend. You know, weather was great. Even though it was a little chilly early, I think that might have delayed some people waiting to, well, let's wait till the fountain ceremony's over before we get to the tailgate lot and things like that. Turned into a beautiful day. We had fun Friday night. We had fun all day Saturday, had fun Sunday. So great weekend, man.
Yeah.
But before we get into way more than that, let's get a quick word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC. And since this is football only kind of for this weekend, we're going to go with the football ad. If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com.
Well, let's get into the beginning of the weekend. Of course, I flew in Thursday night. It was a late flight, so there wasn't much to talk about then. And Friday was filled with tailgate preparations and some last minute things, so that we could try to put on something really good for the fans on Saturday. Without getting into detail about that, I'm just going to say I think that mission was accomplished first and foremost. And I want to give massive thanks to our buddies that came down and manned the smokers and cooked and put all that great food out for people. And I mean, the reviews on that were glowing, beyond glowing. Folks were, I don't know what they were expecting, but whatever it was they were expecting, they got more than what they were expecting. So a massive thank you to Chris and Ryan, those guys, for busting their butts Friday night, staying up, manning the smokers, and then getting food out on Saturday and keeping it coming on Saturday. But
yeah, if you like that, there will be more of it for the first game, because Chris is already saying he cannot wait to get the smoker down there, for that first game. Again, this is going to ease into a little bit of news. It's going to be on the me and Jed thing, but supposedly the first game is going to be a night game. So you got all day to tailgate and eat that barbecue and everything. That just means maybe some more, because they can take some things off and throw some shorter things on, like more sausages and things like that. So we'll get our heads together and see what we can do to try to top what we just had on Saturday with a lot more of that good food.
Yeah, let's talk about that one point real quick, because that kind of snuck in that news just kind of snuck in there, that
Mhm.
that the opener is going to be a night game, and that coincides with the lights project, the stadium lights project at Jones C. Edwards Stadium. And these are words from Gerald Harrison. He said, "We are expecting to have that project done before the first home game, which will be a night game." So those were from words from his mouth, not us speculating. That was in a WV Metro News article we happened upon this weekend. So you can put that one in the hip pocket and think, all right, well, maybe I can plan on a 7 p.m. kick. So that means you might be able to tailgate all freaking day long. And that's exactly what you want to do for a home opener. And Russ is breaking news to me because I had been telling people, if the guys are able to cook for us, then we will be able to go as big or bigger for the fall. So to me, that was up in the air. So now to hear you say, he can't wait to get here, man, that's the biggest confirmation of the weekend for me.
Well, Papa, I'm going to tell you to put your glasses on because it was in that text thread that we were in earlier today.
Yeah, I scan and wanted, the more important thing to me was to get to him that how appreciative and thankful that I was of the
Yeah.
job that they did, and how, I mean, that's just so selfless to come down and commit to that type of cooking regimen and schedule and all day, and everybody's out there tailgating, and he's just those guys are under that hot smoker just banging out unbelievable food.
So here's the deal, and I'm going to use a movie analogy or a TV show analogy. You know how you have two main characters and they start out together and everything, and then inevitably they get separated. So finally they come back together. Well, that's Chris and Kyle. They
Yep.
came down here and they did the smokers, and then somebody had a scheduling thing, and one would come and the other could not, and then I don't think Chris will mind me saying he's a triathlete and he had a massive bicycle wreck and had some very, very painful injuries, broken bones, things like that, to where he could not do anything. This was his first cook since.
Mm-hmm.
And, Kyle couldn't make it. He had a scheduling issue with this time where Chris had one last time. So it's like we've held these two guys apart. And now we're hoping that this next one might be the let's get the band back
Yeah.
together,
Yeah. Let's get the
and
band back together.
have those dueling smokers yet again, and just really tear it up like those two can. Kyle and the Kentucky Mash Boys, and Chris with his stuff, and they just complement each other. They've been friends for decades, and they a hive mind thinking alike on what to do, and they cook very, very similarly. And think of Chris and his helper did all of this. Kyle and his helpers did all of that before. Think about getting them back together. Uh,
Yeah.
Pressure, Kyle. I know you'll watch and listen to this. We're shooting for that weekend in September that schedule will align.
Yeah. Open up a little bit. I will say too, man, we missed the hell out of you being there.
Yeah,
Not just the food that you pump out, but the
just
personality, the
the
vibe,
presence.
the
Yeah,
existence of
yeah.
Kyle Walker at your tailgate is something in and of itself. It just brings the level of the whole vibe up a notch or two. But it was a fun weekend, and of course we were treated with the opportunity on Friday evening to attend the Herd Brothers football reunion
Hmm.
celebration yet again. Pretty good turnout. We got to meet some new friends, talk again with some old friends. I would say we shared a few ideas with some folks, and some folks were mentioned to us that they actually listened to our show from across the country where they live or
Hmm.
down where they
Yeah.
live, and it helps to help them feel connected, and that always feels good, man.
Yeah, because listen, I am not being funny when I say this and everything. I'm not trying to be cute or anything. We are incredibly humbled every time that we hear that, but I encourage everybody to tell us that, you former players and everything, that you listen, because it's not about feeding any kind of ego at all for me or you or anything, but hearing that is like Well, that opens up some conversations of, okay, what can we do then, for you, a former player, and things like that. So don't be afraid to come up. It's not like, I mean, this is all still real new to us, and we have zero egos about it or anything. I mean, somebody comes up and I've never seen them before, and they're like, "Are you Russ, or are you the guy from the ThunderCast?" It blows my mind. It's going to blow my mind 10 years from now, that people watch and listen. So, don't be afraid. Just come up. I I so loved talking to some of those players that was like, yeah, I watch you every single week. I have you on YouTube and watch you guys, but I want to hear from you about that so we can talk about things like that. It's like, well, what can we do to help you and the herd bros and stuff like that? So it was super, super cool.
Yeah. Not only do I want to hear from you, I want to talk to you. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want to relive the days with you, like I've done with, a
Mm-hmm.
dozen or so of our other athletes, and I want to get you thinking about those days and those guys that you went through hell with and two-a-days with and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, and it's a really cool experience. And Mark George and the quarterback club do such a great job
Oh
uh,
my God.
try to keep the Herd brothers a tight knit group and to grow that group. And by and large, the number one thing that we heard was we need to get more of that younger crop of
Mm-hmm.
players in there. So really, like the 70s, 80s, and 90s guys are so well represented there.
Mm-hmm.
They really need to get more of those 2000s, 2010s, 2020s, and
Mm-hmm.
recent grads in there. The brotherhood as a whole needs to get a little bit younger. They just need to grow larger and incorporate more of those decades and eras of players. So if you're one of those guys that's listening and you're like, dude, they want you back. And I heard how many people say, we don't care if you played here 1 year. You're
Mm-hmm.
a herd brother and we want you
Yeah.
back. We want you to know that you have a home here and you belong here. And I think that's something moving forward that a new era of player needs to know, that the transfer portal is a thing. If you played at Marshall, you have a home at Marshall with the Herd brothers.
Well, I'm not using this to name drop when I say that I was talking to Herd Hall of Fame running back, the GOAT, Chris Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Name drop. But when I was talking to him, I specifically mentioned someone, and even though he wasn't there, I'm going to mention him by name because it's all positive. I don't have his okay to say his name, but he can drive down here and whip my ass, And I know he'd probably love to every now and then, as much hell as I give him. But we were talking about Glenn Pedro.
Mm-hmm.
And I equated it. You and I both were in a college fraternity. We're alums of a fraternity. It's the same deal. I said there are guys in a 5-year window, from a fraternity. Chris and Glenn were in a fraternity as well. So they're her brothers, but also in a fraternity. I said, Glenn strikes me as one of those guys that if you get him there, all of a sudden there's going to be 30 more. You
Mm-hmm.
know exactly some people that I'm talking about. Well, there's got to be those guys in football. So if you are finding this somehow and you were a herd brother at Marshall for a year to 4.5, 5 years, whatever, and you are that guy that when you're there, everyone else is there, you need to talk to us and we need to put you in touch with the Herd brothers and let them get you coming to this reunion, get you doing more, get you involved. They're looking for phone numbers, addresses, and emails, not so they can hit you up for money. They're doing it so they can reach out and say, how are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Let us include you with what we're doing. We're
Mm-hmm.
doing this. We're organizing that. That's what it's all about, man. So if you know anybody that's that magnetic personality, like a Glenn Pedro, you need to get them back for this reunion.
Yeah, and this year they moved it from the big green room up in the press box area of the Joan
Mm-hmm.
over to the Dutch Miller deck.
Home run.
Excellent change of
Yeah.
venue. It led to so many more conversations being had because it's a big wide open space and you can go outside and have some fresh air conversations. You can move back inside and have some couch conversations. It was just an excellent top tier move, and I tell you, man, that's that's an awesome event, and I know that if some guys go to it once, they'll come back again and again and again. It's just a really cool event. So Friday night was stellar. I mean, absolutely stellar. Now that we get into Saturday, and of course I've been waiting on this for literally months,
Mm-hmm.
and we got up bright and early. We hit the lots around 9 o'clock. The guys had already been cooking all evening and all night. And, we were trying to get some final preparations done, tables set up, everything organized and stuff like that. We had to get us a quick live stream over at the Herd Zone Stadium store. And
Mm-hmm.
that's fun. I love doing that for Brett and talking about what they have, those exclusive items that they have there you can't get
Yeah.
anywhere else. So you have to go shopping inside the stadium store to find those items. We hit the fountain ceremony, of course, because you have to hit the fountain ceremony, and always a great event to be a part of. Um, I'm going to talk about that video that I shot real quick because
Yeah.
man, I was in the right spot at the right time to catch the fountain come on and the fight song to play, and that is wicked cool, man. That's a wicked cool video. I'm glad I was standing right there at that moment. But I'm sure you've got some things about the fountain ceremony.
Well, I want to lead off with saw a guy walking and he had glasses on, he had earbuds in, he had his hat down. But he was wearing ODU gear, and Old Dominion was here for
That's right.
baseball weekend, and I saw him walking, and I did not recognize him because he had this stuff on, but I stopped him because he was walking I mean, almost at the fountain. I was already standing in the back at the
Mm-hmm.
fountain ceremony, and this was about 10 minutes before it was supposed to start. And he comes walking up, and I stopped him, and he couldn't hear me at first because of his headphones. And I said, "I wanted to thank you as an opposing fan. I'm assuming that you're coming over here to take this in and everything." And I said, I know the monarchist down there if he was familiar, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I know those guys." And it was like he saw a person in me that he recognized, and he was like, "I'm the Old Dominion's version of Steve Cotton." And at the same time, he and I said Ted Alexander because
Mm-hmm.
I'd just met him. Aaron from the Monarchists was up here for basketball, and he and Ted were traveling with the team, and I talked to Ted there for about 15 minutes after the game. Uh, but anyway, he was taking this in, and he told Steve Cotton um, about it and said that it was just an honor to be able to learn more about it and see it and witness that fountain ceremony. And he said it was great. So we just have something extremely special honoring this tragedy that happened, but also the rebirth after.
Mm-hmm.
And just know that our fans still view this. I mean, our opposing fans, our opponents, they view this as such a special thing. So if you haven't been, just know that you should go because there's people from, states away or hours away that when they're up here, they are hoping to witness something like that. And they did.
Mm-hmm. It was very, very cool, and of course we shared some discussion with some folks heading over. I had some discussion with some folks going back, and the way on my way back as people are walking the other way, it was also a big visit day, like an admissions
Yeah.
type visit day for Marshall. And everybody I would pass, I would be like, hey, if you guys get hungry in a little bit, come on over to the west lot of the football stadium. You go right to the RV. You'll see, come have some food and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just trying to put herd hospitality on full display, and later I kind of eyeballed a few folks that I had talked to on the way over, stopping by to get some food, and that's what it's all about, man. That's exactly what it's all about. And now let's talk about that tailgate a little bit, which of course we have to thank Landscaping by Hillcrest for sponsoring that tailgate. Because without them, obviously we can't make that happen. Without Chris,
None of it.
we can't
None of
make
it.
that happen. Right? We are mere vehicles for the work that other people are doing, and the resources that other people are providing in order for us to be able to do that. I just think it's really cool that we are trying to turn this spring game weekend into an event for fans. It's like, dude, come out and buy the ticket. You don't have to worry about food. Just come out and have a good time. You'll have a great bunch of food. You can have all you want to eat and go watch the herd. Get your palate wet for the herd for the first time. And man, I'm gonna be honest with you, Russ. I saw some really cool stuff on the field. Some guys opened some eyes for me. Guys I really didn't know anything about, obviously, because they've transferred in from other destinations. And now, I mean, I got some excitement brewing just based off of some of the things, the throws I saw, the catches I saw, the runs and cuts that I saw, tackles I saw, coverage I saw. It
Yeah.
was pretty good. And I said it in the tweet that being excited is not an overreaction. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to stand here and say, "Oh, this is a Sun Belt title team right now
Mm-hmm.
in April." I'm not going to do that. But I got reassured of some things in some positions
Mm-hmm.
that were question marks for me, because they were question marks for everybody, because we didn't know what the hell we have, and we still
Right.
don't. But I got a glimpse of what we might have. So I'm really positive about some of the things I saw.
I I talked to, you can go on the field after, but we had players come by our tailgate too.
Mm-hmm.
And this wasn't anything, there will be no names, there will be no positions or anything like that uttered. But I talked to a specific player that played last year. He's in the same position, but he just feels like he will be in a much better opportunity this year to do amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
But in that, he was talking about some other people and how he has seen them grow, but also that they are in a better position now to do better things. So it makes you real excited when the team is saying that. The coaches have been saying very similar in their press conferences that, been playing on Paul Swan or, WSAZ or things like that you hear Coach Gibson saying, or some of his coordinators saying, or some of
Mm-hmm.
the players saying about coordinators. I have heard some players talking about Brad Lambert and his system, and it makes me very excited for what we are likely to see this year.
Mm-hmm.
What we saw on the field, I think, for anyone that was there, you saw 4 down linemen quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's what a lot of people were wanting last year. Either stick to the 4-2-5, go back to a 4-3, or at least if you're going to be in a 3-3-5, have a hybrid situation where you bring one of those outside linebackers that is also an edge, and bring them down, and then you could go into a 4-2-5 as needed with what the offense is throwing at you. But it looks like we're going to get that this year. That we'll have 4 down linemen and a different scheme, and it should, from what I've seen, help with pressure on the quarterback, and hopefully take some of the pressure off the defensive backs.
Yeah, it looks. I mean, it's spring. You're not going to get much of anything, right?
Yeah.
It was one half of football, and it was offense versus defense. So you weren't getting a lot of ones versus ones, right? Like CDRW was in and out. That's it, and that's all you're going to see. So this was a lot about getting game speed rep for some of those on the depth chart, to where you can separate there, right? And some
Mm-hmm.
guys are vying for position, and this is really just a culmination, obviously, of your spring practice session. You still have summer session to go, and that's where a lot of the separation is really going to matter, because that's when you're heading into the season. But I saw some guys today, or on Saturday, that really impressed me, and um, both sides of the football. Well, actually, all three phases of the football, honestly. So, who was the, let's just get some particulars just real quick. Like,
Yeah.
who would you say was the one or two guys that impressed you the most, or three? Because I got three guys in mind particularly that have stuck out to me since Saturday.
I have more than that. Can I cheat?
You
I'm
can
gonna
name as
cheat.
many as you want. I mean, just don't run down the
This
roster, obviously.
this
But
sit in communist Russia. I'll cheat. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna tell my bosses right now. I'm gonna cheat on this.
okay,
KD, I'm cheating.
okay.
Um, I'm gonna say Khalil Wilkins by far with his speed, elusiveness, but a big time arm. It seemed like if there was one weakness in his game, and again, this is the spring, like we're talking about, but one weakness is he might be like a yard off on the deep ball. Oh well, he was looking. I told you, and this is obvious hyperbole, but he looked like 1995 Tommy Frazier out there at
Yeah,
times. And but I mean, how about some of those throws, man? I
yeah.
mean, but he lined up. At one point, I think he was in the slot. I would love to see that. I told someone up there I would love to see two QBs out there in the backfield at the same time, and then have one slide over, one go under center, and then the defense is on their heels because they don't know who's going to be taking that snap until right before it's hiked. Um, he is one of those athletic, speedy guys that I think can dominate if
Hmm.
he matures and develops the way that you hope that he would. And it might be sooner rather than later that you would see that, because he was a freshman last year. This would be his sophomore year. I'm not talking about like game 6. I'm saying, this guy might not have to be a junior before he's as polished as he would need to be.
Yeah.
I'll switch over to you, and then that way I'm not talking for an hour about these guys that impress me.
Well, my number one guy was also Khalil Wilkins. That kid throws a beautiful deep ball, and you can't really say that he was a yard off. Maybe the wideout needs another step. I mean, he threw a beautiful ball, and some of those were very catchable, and some of them hit hands, and some of them had good defensive plays made on them that they just got broken up. So that's going to happen, but we're not talking about being wildly inaccurate deep. I mean,
No.
this was very, very accurate, all
Yeah, I was
catchable
I was
balls.
talking about like some going down the sidelines. It's
Yeah,
got to be in the field of play.
yeah.
But I mean, you're talking about what like 5 yards out of bounds is what I mean.
No, there were some that were coming directly towards the deck that were
Mhm.
falling, like dropping in the bucket, like right in
Yeah,
front of us, and they
yeah,
looked beautiful. I mean, beautiful
gorgeous,
balls.
gorgeous.
So this youngster, and he's a redshirt sophomore listed on the roster, also listed as the tallest quarterback. So 6'4", 203. Obviously, going to add a little weight under Dwight Galt once he gets in this herd strength
Hmm.
program for a year and another year, and just with normal growth. I mean, 6'4",
Hmm.
203. Obviously, rather slender for a quarterback, but you'd like to think he's going to put on a little weight. He'll be a dangerous weapon, and it would not surprise me to see him on the field like you're talking about this year. The kid's very athletic. It's like,
Yeah,
how do you keep him off of the field? Is probably the problem that, or the question you're going to have to answer, because he's pretty damn talented.
KD, real quick.
Yeah.
You talked about the weight and everything. The roster that we have is pre-spring. They have changed a couple of things up, like adding the people to the page is about it, but they haven't changed height, weight, things like
That's
that.
true.
If you remember last year, there was a significant change from the spring to when they went, and they were talking about, yeah, they were probably already had dropped this weight,
Hmm.
before the spring game, or they had put on this weight. I wouldn't be shocked to see him closer to 210 when it gets down to the final roster in the fall after August practice. I would see him 210, 212, somewhere around there. And he's probably already been putting it on, if I had to guess, because
Yeah,
he did not look too thin while he was out
it's a good point. That is a good point. Once we get updated rosters, of course, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. There's number changes and this, that, and the
there.
other.
Hmm.
Some of them have been listed on the roster. Some I think have not. But I think we're both in agreement that Khalil Wilkins was the most impressive newcomer to the
Hmm.
program for both of us.
Yeah. Xavion Turner Bradshaw is my next one. He had an absolute gorgeous on the first drive. Del Rio Wilson hit him on a crossing route in stride, and he immediately, when he caught it, turned upfield. He was a target quite a bit. I don't have the stats in front of me. They posted them on the article, but he was just a weapon early. And I think he had 5 catches, 70 yards or something like that. Just highly, highly impressive because we didn't see a lot of that out of him last year. We saw him in the return game, or they would bring him in and do like an end around, or try to find some creative ways. But we did not see him on the crossing routes. We did not see him on the vertical routes and things like that as much. In Georgia, he had that one gorgeous catch from Zion Turner that went for a lot of yards, but we did not see it all throughout the season. So it looked like he is going to be another one of those weapons in what you and I have already said is one of those rooms that we are excited for this year with what we returned and also what we brought in.
Yeah, I can't call it an overhauled wide receiver room, right? Because Tamarez returns, XTB returns, Norton returns, but you do bring in a lot of talent also, and
Mhm.
so how deep will that room go is really the question that remains to be answered, because I think your 1, 2, and 3 guys at least 1, 2, and 3 are pretty solid, and we didn't see much, if any, of Norton, but Tamarez really impressed me. Had a lot of
Mhm.
receptions, tough catches, bringing down tough balls his way. But my number 2 guy, XTB, was very impressive. My number 2 guy was running back. It's TJ Lester. I mean, the vision, the cutting, the burst. This is an excellent addition that at least from the limited view that I had, right? It's a limited view. If you've got a healthy Joe Sean Barbie and you've got a 1-2 punch with TJ Lester, I don't even know who else is in the mix there, right? But those 2 guys alone can take you a long way and take some of that abuse off of CDRW if they don't want him to try to carry the ball as much to make it all the way through a season as close to 100% as you probably can. That kid was really, really impressive. And, he's the West Georgia transfer, 5 foot, listed on the roster currently as a sophomore, 5'9", 206, to be updated potentially. But he was very, very impressive in his action.
He had 6 rushes for 45 yards, broke one for a pretty good long run there. Bradshaw, it was 4 receptions for 77 yards. And that's everybody. We didn't talk about. I barely mentioned Del Rio Wilson. He was only in for that opening drive. He went 4 for 5 with 68 yards, marched them right down the field for the touchdown. So that was good too. I know we talked a lot about Khalil Wilkins, but they just did not show a whole lot of Carlos Del Rio Wilson. But while he was in there, he was efficient, he was sharp, and he led us to a touchdown immediately.
Yep. Yep. Who else did something for you in this one? Anybody on the other side of the football potentially?
Well, yeah, but my third one I want to talk about is Tracy Stevens.
Okay. Yep.
Last year, he was with everybody that has to share the ball, and as much as we did with runs from our quarterback, there's just so many passes and targets to go. But he had a touchdown last year. He had a first down that was much much needed last year. He has sure hands, even though he's a big athletic guy for blocking, and he came down with an amazing catch in the back of the end zone from Zion Turner. And he looked very good too in a game where Toby Payne was not out there. So I just want to shout out that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It was nice to see Tracy get a little action in the passing game instead of being just exclusively utilized as a blocker, most of the time, and to come down with one. It's a tough ball. That was the
Mhm.
crossing route deep to the back of the end zone, able to come down with the ball, get the feet down, make the play. That's kind of stuff you like, right? That's really what you want to see. If you get those opportunities, you want to turn those opportunities into points. So
Mhm.
that was pretty impressive. The 1-2 punch put on the horizon here with Payne and Stevens again returning. Could be
Mhm.
bigger in the pass game this year. Of course, we
Mhm.
hope it's always a bigger, utilization of Toby Payne in the pass game. But defensively, I want to talk defense, man, because there were some of these DBs
Mm-hmm.
that opened my eyeballs a little bit.
Yep.
Tashawn Jeter looked really good. Caleb Clark Glover looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
In now, fans remember him last year. Number changed this year. He'll be rocking number 0. So actually, both. It was odd to see the 0-on-0 matchup in the pass game from time to
Mm-hmm.
time, but we got to see that a little bit. So Caleb Clark Glover will be wearing 0 on defense this year. He was really good in coverage. I mean, super solid in coverage. Excellent spring game for him. The junior, the redshirt junior, probably be a pretty big piece on this defense. He was a pretty big piece last year. I got no reason to believe that his role will diminish. I think his role will actually increase this year. And man, he looked the part this year in this spring game.
Well, I'm going to talk about a defensive back, but it's Terrente Hinton, who came from, Tony Gibson, had him at NC State. I know that's not the only place he's at. I can't remember where else, but uh, had some big hits. And he was tied. There were 4, I think, that had 4 tackles. He had one, but he had a big pass break up there as well. But he was out there, seemed like he knew where to be, almost like a linebacker of, being around the ball. And that seems to be like something that will play, is to have a guy like him. I trying to think of who I could compare it to back in the day, of a guy that you got to be out there watching for. And 2 names came out, and it's from when we were in school or a little bit after. But Doug Hodges, I know you remember
I
that hit.
figured you were going that route.
Yeah, my goodness. I still wake up, I wasn't even the guy that got hit, and I still wake up in sweat about that. Plus, everybody that used to call my dorm room and think that, I was Doug. So, whatever. Curtis Keys.
I
You
figured that
remember
was the other one you were going with.
that's the 2, man. And I just, he just seemed like a guy that was out there. Is like, all right, you're going to know I was around,
Yeah.
and if that happens once a game early, that plays later for a receiver that might get alligator arms a little bit, or take his eye off the ball just long enough to say, "Where's Terrente Hinton? Where's he at?" Because I don't want to be on Sports Center. I don't want to get laid out. So I really thought that stood out to me.
Well, you would expect that guy to be that type of player. He's a redshirt senior. He's played a
Mm-hmm.
lot of college football. And even if it isn't game action, you're going against these dudes, these ACC athletes, every single day in practice. So 6'2", 200-pounder. Again, this is just the current roster. But you would like to think, as a redshirt senior, that's probably pretty much where he's going to be when the new roster is
Mm-hmm.
updated. But redshirt senior, to me, says another leader on the field, right? Another
Mm-hmm.
guy that can correct coverages and get all that lined out appropriately. But this is a guy that's there to stack lumber. That's what he's there for. He's gonna let you know he's there. And
Yeah.
you're right, if that happens early in a game, that plays, because that can change I don't want to say the trajectory of a game, but it's something that will be ever present in the back of that particular receiver's mind for the remainder of that particular game. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I always like having those kind of guys. I like the Brandon Draytons, the
I
guys that
do.
are willing to come up and just put the hurt on you, and that's tougher to do in this game, when a lot of times it seems like they want to be targeting happy, but you still need to have those enforcers on your defense in the
Mm-hmm.
secondary. And it seems like, at least what we saw in the spring game, the Herds got one from the safety position that's willing to go out there and do a little bit of the dirty work.
Yeah. So that was mine. I've got more, but I don't know if you
Yeah,
have
go
anybody
ahead, go
else or
ahead.
not. All right. So both running backs you mentioned earlier. I don't know who else, but Judah Price and Anthony Quinn both were impressive. Judah Price actually was the first running back out there in the backfield. Anthony Quinn Jr. had a really nice run. I can't remember how many yards, but it seems like it was like 20 yards, 30 yards, something like that in limited touches. Just looked like kind kind of an explosive guy. And again, he was a true freshman last year. So that's someone to look for. Oh man, I know there was another guy that I had. I'll think about it. I'll think about it.
Well, there were a lot of
Oh,
guys.
I do know it was this. It wasn't so much, not that he was not impressive. It was very much welcome news to me that Coy Fagan was still a quarterback, because we had
Yeah.
heard last year that they had moved him, and maybe it was just for scout team purposes and stuff like that, that he was with the defensive backs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was expecting to see that and felt like, well, they just have not updated the roster. But Coy Fagan was out there, and Coy looked very good, very poised, as you would expect a red shirt freshman to look like at this point in his development and his place on the depth chart. He did not look as polished as Khalil Wilkins. Well, he's a year behind Khalil Wilkins.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very, very nice to see, because you're almost seeing the future. You've got two redshirt senior or fifth year senior guys that are from last year. They were 1 and 2 on the depth chart. And then you've got these two youngsters that look like they at any point can be the future behind, or, I say under center or whatever, but in the
Yeah,
gun.
running the offense,
Yeah,
right?
running the
But
offense.
you're always one snap away. It's always
Right.
one
Yeah.
snap away in this game, and it's incredibly hard to stay healthy for an entire season, and you never know when it's going to be, your time to shine. And I mean, think back to the early Doc Holliday era, and Rakeem Cato's a freshman, and battling a little bit for time, and then midway through the season he kind of took control because there was a little bit of a flip-flop in quarterback, and he just never really relinquished after he got his opportunity. And the rest is history, right? But you're
Mhm.
always one snap away, you're always just one hit away from potentially being QB1. So it really doesn't matter if you end up being QB2 or QB3, because you're still one or two hits away from it being your time to perform. The all
Mhm.
four, well, no, they played five quarterbacks. All five quarterbacks on the roster played. All of them
Yeah,
looked
because
good in spots.
Dylan Barber, I said, is this Clowerty still? Because it was 17 was the number, but it was Dylan. I'm looking right here. Dylan Barber, true freshman, was also getting some snaps.
Yeah, all five guys played. All five guys looked pretty good in spots. It's just some were more consistent than others. I mean, CDRW was in and out, took him down the field. Like you said, he was pretty consistent on that drive and in and out. Turner was okay in spots. It wasn't a case of those plays that were called, wideouts just weren't getting open and he just chucked it out of bounds. Maybe
Still
whatever.
had a really good. He had that touchdown to Stevens.
He had a pretty pass to Stevens in the back of the end zone. A lot of the running backs looked really good. Judah Price was the first one out running with the ones, running really hard, and getting
Mhm.
hard yards in the spring is not something I'm accustomed to saying. But they had the article out on him expecting to have a larger role in this offense, and it was not really super surprising to see him run out with the ones, given who did and who did not dress in this game. Right, we didn't get any Jalen Slappy in this game. We didn't get any Toby Payne in this game. You got a handful of plays from CDRW, and he's out. So, you take that for what it's worth. But I want to go to the special teams now, and
Mhm. Mhm.
by far the most impressive player on the special teams was the youngster, the
Yeah.
freshman, the high schooler just a few months ago. And that's kicker slash punter Cooper Heimbach. I mean,
Mhm.
absolutely booming kicks in warmups. Excellent, excellent kicks in game action. I mean, this is an area of emphasis, right? Because Nathan Totten is gone. He was vital to the success of this team last year. So you have to replace that. You have to replace the statistical single season best kicking duo in herd history. You got to
Mhm.
find a kicker that can do it as consistently as Lorcan Quinn did it. and you have to find a punter that can do it as consistently as Nathan Totten did it. And young Heimbach impressed. He
He did.
impressed. He really did.
Yeah. A lot of people that I know that are familiar with Southern Ohio football, high school football, had been telling me, hey, this kid, he's a kicker, he's a punter, he's really good. And he had a 53-yarder that had a very tight spiral for a punt, but great hang time as well, and it was just a boom at 53 yards. If he can do that every other game, that's going to help flip the field when you need it. We didn't really get to see any. How can you pin them inside the 5? Things like that. There just wasn't much opportunities for that, but he seemed like he's definitely got the leg to do it. And it's a local kid, Willersburg, right down the road.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys. I said this on Twitter. There were a lot of eye-opening plays and players,
Mhm.
and I stand by that. It's not hyperbole. I'm not front running. I'm not trying to, you know, say they're the greatest thing since 14 or 99, right? I'm not saying that, but I am saying we had a lot of questions, a lot, because there's still it's a different year. We didn't bring in 70 some new players, but there are still 30 some 40 new players here. So
Yeah.
there's every year in this era, there's going to be questions. And as much as you think you don't know until you get your eyes on it and get to see. And I feel a little bit better post spring game than I did before the spring game. And that's where I'm going to leave it. There's a lot of potential here, and it still all has to come together, and the plays still have to get executed, and guys still have to remain healthy in order for that to do. And you still have to play defense and stop the football from being scored on you and all of those things. But there are some individual pieces that really stood out. And when you couple that with guys who we know who we have, I didn't need to see Toby Payne impress. I know
Right.
he's impressive. I don't need to see Jalen Slappy impress. I know he's impressive. So it's things like that. And you start to think, okay, you can see where Tony Gibson now didn't have to build a roster. He gets to bolster a roster in year 2. Huge difference in the way that this team is compiled this year versus last.
Couple more. Like I said, I really cheated on that 3 that you gave me, but Deuce White for the second straight spring game. He was an early enrollee last year, so he took part in spring practice and spring game. He scored last year. I can't remember if that was on a reverse that he did last year, but he scored on a 17-yard pass, or no, 3rd and 14. No, it says 17-yard on a 3rd and 14 play. Um, that was the final score of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the one that came down with that one. Second straight time. He's the guy, I think, what is he, 5'8", 5'9", that they have him
Yeah.
listed as. But man, he is electric. He is fast. He's shifty. And he's somebody that I thought we might see on the field a lot more last year. But he's somebody to watch this year.
Mm-hmm.
Also, another newcomer to that wide receiver room via transfer, but Christian Hamilton scored, and that was on the first touchdown of the game. Looked like going to be a keeper from Del Rio. Before he went across the line of scrimmage, he threw a lateral over, and his 24-yard touchdown from Christian Hamilton. So didn't see a lot out of Chris Culliver, Owen Sweeney as far as like touchdowns and things like that, but looking at their speed, looking at their size, watching the routes, looks like they're going to do a lot of damage as well. We really, really, it seems like upgraded that wide receiver room quite a bit.
It looks like it. And we keep talking about Norton and Tamarez and
Hmm.
XDB for good reason. They were
Right.
productive last year and they returned last year. But there's some
Hmm.
guys also that return that you might see in a bigger role this year. Like last year, it was all stater from Spring Valley was true freshman, redshirted last year. Now you're redshirt freshman. Will you see guys like Jalen Abercrombie break in and
Hmm.
get some game? Will you see heard Hall of Famer son Tony Martin, get
Hmm.
some game this year, and things like that. I mean, we saw Haggerty get a little bit of game. So they go deep at wide receiver, at least, like I said, through the top 3 is stamp it. But you're really looking at probably 6 or 7 guys at least that are going to contribute for you in a major way, pseudo major way at least. And you might see as many as 10 or 12 guys with at least some statistics at the end of the year. It just depends on how wide open this offense gets. But there are definitely a lot of players playmaking ability in this wide receiver room. But
And we have also that, not expecting them to break into the starting lineup, at least in the first few games, but 1, 2, 3 true freshman wide receivers that we're going to see there as well that we brought in. So the room is deep. It is a deep room.
Very, very deep, man. And so if you got any other notes on the game, let me have those. Otherwise, we're going to talk about the rest of the weekend and then kind of look to get out of here.
Yeah, that's it for me. Final score for anybody that somehow has not heard or seen it is 28-20. And just to recap how it worked was you got 7 points for a touchdown on offense, and you got 3 for a defensive stop, 5 for a turnover forced, and 11 if you somehow got a scoop and score or pick six, you got 11 points. So that's how it was. There was no like, okay, this person's down. Now green is going to be on offense. It was green versus white. One was offense, one was defense. And, the defense had its own individual way of scoring. So it ended up 28-20 after it's 21-20 with just what, a minute left or less.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like, hey, maybe they got a chance at it, and then got that touchdown at the very end with no time on the clock, and that got us 28-20 victory for the offense. But that's it for me.
So if you are keeping track for now, I don't know if this will give you any indication of what the offense might look like or what they're trying to do. Currently, there are 14 wide receivers on the roster. And remember, they just picked up a commitment the other day from another wide receiver that's not, for as far as we know, hasn't been signed yet and isn't added to the roster. So let's call that 15. And there are a few other ones that entered the portal and haven't signed yet. We don't know what their status is. Will they, won't they? We don't know. Right. But currently, there are 14 and only 4 running backs on the roster. Now, you can expect CDRW to take runs. You can probably expect Zion Turner to run the ball a little bit. Your quarterbacks are gonna run the football. But there were far more running backs last year on that roster, So
Well,
I don't know that means anything, but
the
it's
guy from
definitely
Maryland, the guy from Maryland's coming in as a running back.
okay.
He was a wide receiver slash running back slash special teams guy. He might be more special teams than anything, but even his graphic in my notes, I had him listed as a wide receiver because that's way ESPN had him or whatever. But on his graphic showing the commitment to Marshall, he was listed himself as a running back, or Marshall listed him as a running back. So expect McLaurin, Josiah McLaurin, to be on the running back room and not on the wide receiver room. There is also, this is nothing, I'm not breaking any kind of news. No one's told me any of this. I have either heard or seen, and I can't remember if it was something that I saw a coach had said or heard it on, like, again, WSAZ or the like, but Tony Martin was even looking at, what could he do on the, I think it was the other side of the ball, even maybe, just to maybe because there's so many wide receivers, or maybe they need some depth pieces elsewhere or whatever. But he is looking at trying to make himself a lot more versatile, and he might switch positions as well. So yeah, there is a lot of depth there. There's a lot of talent there, but again, there's a lot of youngsters there that might have to bide their time until next year because they're still trying to grow into their bodies and get acclimated to D1 football and things like that.
Yeah, but plus they just recruited really well in the portal.
Very
It's just
well.
very, very
Very,
competitive in that room.
very well.
So the game left, as most springs do, leave you more questions than answers. You get some insights, you get very few answers. So we were left with a lot of questions that we will obviously try to answer over the next several months as we head into the summer and ultimately into the season. But I want to just take a few notes. We're closing in on an hour here. I didn't think we were going to go this long, so I just want to talk about tailgate real quick, and I want to say that if you fans, the fans that stopped by, were probably able to, rub shoulders with some herd legends, some champions. I want to give a shout out to Coach Julie Folks for stopping by. The whole WNIT champion herd women's basketball team stopped by and had some great food and talked with some fans for a while, talked with us for a while, and we appreciated that. We tried to invite all of our coaches that I could find contact info for to let them know they were welcome here too. So many of our teams were out of town or, weren't going to be able to do or out recruiting. Coaches were out recruiting, but still, this is for them as well, their teams as well. So those fans that stop by, like we always say, Russ, you never know who you're going to see at a ThunderCast tailgate.
That's
and
right.
You would have been able to say, appreciate the championship. Thanks for bringing one back to Huntington, right? Members of our ladies swim and dive team were over there as well. So lots of herd athletes, herd coaches, and all-time greats. I mean, we can't go this whole show and not say that I think maybe the guy that was the most impressed by what was going on and the food that was put out would have been herd all-time great Doug Legursky.
Yeah.
Came back to the tailgate. I hope Doug is listening. I hope that but because that was so cool to get to know him this weekend and have him back in Huntington. I hope this is a catalyst that will get you back on back to Huntington on for the home opener and come and hang with us again because we had a great time. Thanks for the whole weekend. You're an awesome dude, by the way.
I don't think he had any unfinished business with that chicken on the and that's an inside joke for him and a few others that are listening. But there may be unfinished business, but not with the chicken at
Yeah.
the tailgate. Also, have to say we had some players and coaches come by before and after the game and stop by the table and get a little snack, and some more than others. And as you saw if you watched, we had my friend, really great guy, Andre Motley. I turned around and saw that he was, taking a handful of cookies there, and I had to get him on and talk about 262 yards
Yeah.
and Randy Moss and all that. But man, it's just so much fun to tailgate. I'm a huge tailgate dude, and that's what I love. And this was my respite. It was back. I had
Yeah.
4.5 months that I waited to do a tailgate, and I've got 4.5 more before I'm planning the next one. And I've already been planning. I've
Yeah.
already been planning.
I mean, as much as you like tailgates and tailgating, is as much as I just like talking to people. I don't know if you knew that about me, but I will
Oh,
talk to anyone.
I've picked up over the
I,
20. Lord, it's almost
it's
29
almost,
years,
I
man.
know. I will literally talk to anyone. And I love being able to do that because a tailgate like no other place puts me at the epicenter of herd fandom. Like I'm just surrounded by herd fans. And
Yeah.
those are the folks I really like to talk to the most. Right. And being down here in Florida, I rarely see a Marshall license plate or anybody wearing a herd t-shirt or anything like that. And sometimes I do. Most of the time it'll be at somewhere like Busch Gardens or something where we're out for the day and I'm rocking a herd shirt and I'll catch a go herd in the distance, and
Mhm.
but that's my favorite part of being back is getting to talk to people, meet new friends, see old friends. I mean, that is it for me. The food is just like icing on the cake. Being able to be a place where people just congregate and hang is just a bonus. So that's my therapy. And it's work as much as it is fun. And this weekend is entirely tiring. I came home yesterday. My flight didn't get in until after 11 p.m. And then we had to drive back from Orlando. So we got home after 1 a.m. and the weekend has finally just set in like, all right, you're home now. You're going to sleep really well. Man, I slept like a ton of bricks. Um, but I'd do it all over again and wouldn't think twice about it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love spring game weekend, and I am so thankful that people continue to come out and continue to tailgate with us and continue to support the herd, and people um, continue to help us pull this weekend off. I mean, dude, we can't do this, just me and you. And I appreciate everybody that takes a part in it so that it turns into what it turns into. Even collectively, the fans just show up. You breed a good time for the other people that show up.
Yeah.
It's so cool, man. And I'm so glad that this part of our show, or whatever you want to call it, has allowed that to happen. Such
Mm.
a cool reprieve, such a cool weekend to get you your first fix of football, so you're ready to roll for the summer and into the season.
Yeah. And I talked to you off camera about this, but our early first conversation was I said, man, I've got to do something about tailgating, even if it was just like mentioning it and stuff like that. I mean, that was my hope, was to grow this. And the very first year, I mean, we had only done like 4 episodes before the spring game of April 2022,
Mm.
and I just had to go by, like didn't have much time. Went that morning, grabbed some hot dogs to grill, grabbed some stuff, made um, Shulo's hot Sicilian from back when I owned the kitchen at the Union, had some sliders of that, and it was just a hey, hang out here at my Forerunner, with the back glass up, and we're gonna sit here at this table, and just handful of us, and some
Mm.
people walked by and we said hey.
Mm.
And to this time, this is the second time that we've probably rolled through 1,000 plates,
Pretty
you
damn
know,
close.
and I mean, we were out of the food,
Hmm.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, it was gone. And man, that was a lot of food too.
I know. Think about that. From standing at the back of your forerunner, just a handful of us hanging, spending time,
Mm,
to two live shows, massive amounts of food, you know, teams, coaches, players, fans, player parents. I mean, I think there were even a few recruits on a visit that stopped by and
yeah,
grabbed some food. And that's
yeah.
cool, man, because that's the very essence of Marshall and the very essence of herd family and herd hospitality. Do I have to
There
say
were
it again? I mean, every
there were
school
some new
sells it, but we
there were
deliver it.
some newcomer player parents that stopped by, and we had seen them earlier, and I was like, listen, man, I'm telling you, this is some of the best barbecue you'll ever have in your life, and I think that it hit the mark, and I've had Chris's stuff for a long time, I've had Kyle's stuff for a long time. I know what to expect, but every time
Hmm.
that I have it, it still just continues to blow me away. But
Yeah.
Chris rocked. He was a trooper. Ryan came down and helped him. He was a trooper. And then I have to shout out a lot of our usual crew. Karen Legrand made several sides, several desserts, was over there, set up her own dessert table. Hey, what can I do? Always helping. She's just such an amazing person, amazing herd fan. And we're blessed to have her as part of our crew.
Hmm.
She is ThunderCast tailgating as much as the rest of us are.
Here, here.
And then Jake Davis and his daughter was in Brenna. She's in culinary school, and she's helping. He's helping. I had to go to the well, you and I both, but I had to stop what I was doing, and you and I both went down to the fountain ceremony. And I just said, "Hey, Jake, here's my vision of what we're going to lay it out. Hot to cold, going this way, and here's what I want." And we had the little tinted cards that had what everything was that you could put in front of it. And I came back, and he had set up a catering thing. I mean,
Hmm.
it was all right there. Garrett and Emily Dye helped. They made my mac and cheese, so I didn't have to with everything we had going on Friday night, Saturday morning, all that stuff. They made that because it was going to be impossible for me to do unless I got up at like 3 a.m. and then found a way to get it over there to the stadium. And they did that for me, and then they helped once they got there. And then Dana Watts, who tailgates right there with us too, he showed up and was helping move everything. And then a bunch of other people just said, "What can I do? What can I do?" And we're blessed to have the people that we have, the crew that we have, and Austin Ray, I keep saying that he came by and, was taking photos and video that one game last year. And he said best college or best tailgate in college football. And I have to quote him because, man, I'm not around SEC tailgates. I'm not around all these other, where people are bringing in and they're spending 10 grand and, maybe maybe they're not in a parking lot. They're over in a big field or something, because their tailgate's set up different. But our guys that came down were from Columbus. I mean, Chris has lived in Columbus for a long time. Ryan lives in Columbus, and he said, "You're not going to see this at an Ohio State spring game. You're not going to see feeding 1,000 plates going out and all these fans and everything, and doing what we're doing, a live tailgate show, two of them really, one indoors, one out." And when he said that, it just kind of hit me. And again, we're not tooting our own horn. This is just, it's gotten so big because of the fans. It's gotten so big because Landscaping by Hillcrest allows it. And that's the final thing I'm going to say before I turn it over to you, is this entire weekend was made possible by a lot of people, but none of it would be possible without Landscaping by Hillcrest, who said, "Now, we're not going to sponsor a small little tailgate. We do things big." Everything they do is massive and immaculate. They do the very best job that they can on all these jobs. They're not putting in some mulch and stuff like that. They are transforming your outdoor space into an oasis. Hardscapes, pools, retaining walls, outdoor kitchens that cost more than some houses. I mean, you name it, you want it done, they can do it. And they are impeccable, and they said, "We want you to do the same with tailgating." I said, "Say no more." That's what I envision, and they have made this possible, and we've grown it to that point. So anyone watching, listening, please go to landscapingbyhillcrest.com. If you see them on social media, thank them for what they have done for us and share their stuff. Maybe there's some herd fans out there that need to transform their outdoors and give thanks back to someone that has given so much over the last 2.5 years or so on these tailgates, back to Landscaping by Hillcrest.
Yeah, I would echo that too, man. The more that we can show them love with business their way, the more they know that they're reaching the right people,
Right.
And we appreciate all they continue to do. And I appreciate every single person that you ripped off earlier, because we have a legit team of people that come together and help pull this off. And I don't, dude, I'm not taking any credit for it. I am not shy about saying I show up and I talk into the mic and I talk to people and I eat food, right? I don't cook a damn thing. I can't cook a damn thing. Like, I get in the way. Now, I'll set some tables up, I'll ice down the coolers, like all that good stuff. But the people that we have around us are absolute freaking rock stars. They absolutely are. We are blessed. We are blessed dudes. And I say that a lot, that we are blessed dudes to be surrounded by such great people, by such great fans, and that continually support what we do and allow us to do things like this. It's just so freaking cool. I mean, I think about that a lot. I think about being a student in the student section all those years ago. And if you would have told that kid that now you would be doing this, I would have laughed and be like, whatever, whatever. So another great spring game goes down in the books. I'm looking forward to September. We're going to go even bigger if the dynamic duo, both are able to come to Huntington, we're going to go even bigger. So that tells me you guys need to make your plans now to be at the home opener. Be ready to tailgate all day long. Be ready to take part in what we are going to try to do, because it's going to be big. I mean, it's going to be big.
Huge.
It's going to be big. Russ, I've got nothing else. So why don't you go ahead? Oh, I do have one other thing. Okay. I want to give a shout out to Morgan Zirkle and the softball crew for getting them a sweep down in there at Coastal Carolina, and Bills and the boys for a series win over ODU. That really helped cap the weekend off for me. I got to watch a little bit of the game Saturday, and I went to the game on Sunday and watched a tough as nails gutsy win by the Herd on Sunday to take the series. That made the weekend. The Saturday was awesome. The Sunday series clinching win by the baseball team was even better. And then the last final touchdown of the weekend, landing safely back in Orlando and back with my wife and the family. Great weekend. Glad I could share it with you. Glad I could share it with everybody that came up and said hi, that grabbed a plate of food. Everybody that I met, new friends and old. It's great to see you all, and I can't wait to be back until September.
Yeah, Jed and I'll be back recording Wednesday evening. I'll be in a hotel room, but as I travel for work. But we'll have all kinds of news about stuff that KD mentioned there. We'll go a lot more in depth, and we got a lot more than that too to go over. It's big news week yet again. But whether you see us at the Jack, whether you see us at the Vet, whether you see us at the Dot, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd. It is the ThunderCast and our team of people. We'll see you in the fall. Russ and Jed will see you in a couple days. Later.